Atama.
Okay, so as you guys know, I may not be good at reading Hebrew, but apparently the guy on the computer can. So let's go.
והנחש היה ערום מכל חיית השדה, אשר עשה אדוני אלוהים, ויאמר אל האישה, אף כי אמר אלוהים לא תאכלו מכל עץ הגן, ותאמר האישה אל הנחש, מפרי עץ הגן נאכל, ומפרי העץ אשר בתוך הגן אמר אלוהים, לא תאכלו ממנו ולא תיגעו בו, פן תמותון. ויאמר הנחש אל האישה, לא מות תמותון, כי יודע אלוהים, כי ביום אכולכם ממנו
He's pretty fast.
ונפקחו עיניכם, והייתם כאלוהים יודעי טוב ורע. ותרא האישה כי טוב העץ למאכל, וכי תאווה הוא
Wait, I think he's ahead of us right now.
נחמד העץ להשכיל, ותיקח מפריו ותאכל, ותיתן גם לאישה עמה ויאכל. ותפקחנה עיני שניהם, וידעו כי ערומים הם, ויתפרו עלי תאנה, ויעשו להם חגורות. וישמעו את קול אדוני אלוהים, מתהלך בגן לרוח היום, ויתחבא האדם ואשתו מפני אדוני אלוהים בתוך עץ הגן. ויקרא אדוני אלוהים אל האדם, ויאמר לו, אייכה? ויאמר, את קולך שמעתי בגן, ואירא כי ערום אנוכי ואחווה. ויאמר, מי הגיד לך כי ערום אתה? המן העץ אשר ציוויתיך לבלתי אכול ממנו אכלת? ויאמר האדם, האישה אשר נתת עמדי, היא נתנה לי מן העץ ואוכל. ויאמר אדוני אלוהים,
Alright, that's enough of that. It's really hard to follow when people are reading Hebrew at full speed. Simply because like when we learn it, it's like, we kind of we are memorizing how certain things are pronounced, but like, when they're pronouncing it in reality, sometimes they go really fast, and like, it's just like, oh well, no, okay, so that's, and then they just, some of the endings of one word will kind of merge into like the start of another one, so it's like, yeah, so it's, I don't know, I guess like it's well, actually, that is the way like Hebrew is structured as well, because there's certain rules where you pronounce the letter of the next word differently if the last letter, like, there was something going on with the last letter of the word right before it. So yeah, like it's totally actually like, based on, what you're saying before that word, then you might pronounce the, the next word. So it's a little bit less separated in terms of words, unlike English, but that's just the way it is. So like, going back to the example from here. For example, this is actually the word, like this usually, like in most cases, not 100%, but at least maybe 80-90%. This is actually the word for and. Alright, and this is actually, this is actually their way of doing the verse number, so that's not part of the verse. But so this is like the word for and then it's like, and said the man. So that, yeah, so I'm up to the level where we're learning verbs, and usually, it's like, and said the man. That's what this is. And see, the word here, duh, is actually part of the man as well. So that's always how Hebrew has always been structured. So it's like, and said the man, or yeah, and said the man, or and said the man, right? So like, but in English we might go, and said the man, right? So like, it's really smushed together, but it's like I'm still really surprised like how like quick I guess Hebrew readers might have been back in the day. I'm not really sure, but anyways, and also like maybe if I record too much of the audio, I might get hit with another copyright copyright flag again. So it's probably a good idea I didn't take the whole audio capture. But I want today, like I'm doing as part of one of my assignments. Like if I have enough material, it could just be like the whole thing, where I'm actually talking about Genesis 1. But I think like right now, because I'm so busy with school, I haven't had really a lot of time to devote to these messages, and maybe the quality has been like getting bad. I'm sorry guys, but I don't know. But whatever it is, like my viewership has like it's on average dropped a lot after the first I guess 2 weeks. But again, like the passage that in the gospel about Jesus. It's the hold on. I'm gonna pause and look it up. Yeah, so here, about the wandering sheep, right? So what do you think? If a man owns 100 sheep and one of them wanders away, will he not leave the 99 on the hills and go to look for the one that wandered off? And if he finds it, truly I tell you, he is happier about the one sheep than about the 99 that did not wander off. So basically, yes, if we're good at English, maybe we can read it almost at the same pace as that Hebrew guy. The whole point of this is that I'm trying to draw from this passage, and I'll probably according to Mary, she suggests I switch to NASB when we're trying to use it to translate like a Hebrew, because she's saying it's pretty close in terms of the structure and the word for word from the Hebrew. But anyways, so maybe we'll switch that in a second when I open another browser window. But the whole point is, I might have talked about this in another message, but that's okay, because I doubt very many of you actually follow my messages on a weekly basis. So I'm just gonna say that, hey, if you haven't heard it before, I'll say it again. Like, one of the reasons why I'm doing this is I want to, there may be people who actually watch my messages who don't actually watch other messages from other pastors, right? So I'm neither encouraging or discouraging that. Whatever you want to do, that's up to you, right? But so I am going to just say that the whole point of this is I know that I have a very small viewership, and maybe compared to some people who definitely have at least hundreds of people watching their videos who are pastors or whatever. Like I said in some of the earlier videos, I am not one. I just doing this because I want to get God's message out there during the pandemic season, and maybe if I do consistently at least have a few viewers, I have the time, I will keep this going even one day after the pandemic. But for now, this is sort of like a good alternative for not being able to have in-person contact, that we can at least do these videos of mine. I was saying that we also so I want to talk about the fall of man today. That's kind of what I was saying, so we can go back to Genesis in a second. But the whole point is of that passage from Matthew 18 that I was showing you earlier is because it's not about the fact that I don't have hundreds of viewers. I'm doing this in case there's that one person out there, whether you're Christian or not, that you really need to hear my message and it's gonna benefit you in some way. Like you're that one sheep of the 99. Then praise be to God, and that that God's doing something through that, right? I realize that maybe some of the messages I preach are not very popular in terms of the topic, or stuff like that. So that could be other reasons why I'm not getting a lot of viewership. And also, you might have noticed that I'm lacking a little bit less facial hair than normal. And so the thing is, at first I thought, I already had a lot of pre-recorded messages that I like, that if I was going to record a message just about Movember, that I would actually have to put that like on a separate video, because like the ones that are released on a weekly basis will not have that in the coverage. What I mean is, like, I thought I already had videos all the way to the end of November before I could actually, like, include it as part of a message, but I guess that wasn't the case. So I guess I got a little ahead of myself, or maybe there is a message that I didn't upload yet that I could do for next week. That might be nice too. But the other thing is, I've been thinking about what book, maybe I'll do another series, maybe on Philippians or something like that. We'll see how it goes. That could be interesting, because I think with the series, at least, it seems like people are following at least some of the messages. So that might work better for people. Or there's even if I didn't have to even if I didn't get asked questions or specific chapters or specific principles from the book, maybe people wanted to see my opinion on a specific principle, or that they knew was in a specific chapter, so they tuned in on the week that I did that particular chapter, right? So, and that's fine too, right? Like I said, these messages are just out there for people to benefit from them, and I am actually not benefiting from them in terms of any financial support or anything else. And I'm a little bit disappointed that my software has not been working very well lately. I might have to complain to tech support for something that I am like paying money for. I expect reliable service, and some of my videos have not been recording right. It could be my hard drive and the lack of space and stuff like that too, but if there is something going on with the software itself, I'm going to protest. Alright, so about Movember, so yes, this is my second or third year doing it, and I really feel that this year, especially with COVID and everything going on, that it's an important issue. So I'm gonna try to wrap this up within 1 minute so we can get back to the fall of Adam. I said the Adamah at the very beginning because I just thought it sounds funny, but but that actually is not Adam. It's Adam is Adam, which you will see in you will see that word. It's sometimes a word. It's not always a name, but so that's something we'll talk about in a little bit. Where is it? Mr. Adam and the man. Where's the man? The God has said. And Adam's not in the first few verses, I think. But I think he does appear here. Yes. So here we go. Where are you, Adam? Adam. She gives it onto her. I think this is here her husband. This is the woman giving it to her husband. So they don't use Adam here because of the context of this verse is just referring to I gave it to my husband, or I gave it to my man, kind of thing, right? So Adam, I think, shows up near the end, but let's not look for Adam right now. So we're gonna get a little bit too sidetracked from what I was trying to accomplish. So I am going to go for the Movember. So I'm gonna pause this and come right back. Alright, so yes, the Movember link. I will post this in the comments as well. The description. I can put it in the comments too. But this is my Movember page. That's what we're talking about here. No. Still so far, no, well, I understand times are tough, and I think that's last year's picture. I actually took a recent one too, so that's a little bit more recent, of when it was closer to when I actually got rid of the initial growth. Alright, I don't know, I guess maybe because I'm pulling a bigger picture and I got a different driver. I don't know, it doesn't seem as great when I was in Zoom earlier, but it seems that I got a good a good quality image going on here. But it's a little bit laggy, but it's actually so. I don't really think it's necessary. The webcam itself is too bad. It's just maybe whatever driver or software you're using with it. Sometimes it's not as great, so then you don't get as good quality image. But what I meant was, I remember when I was in Zoom, I couldn't read my jersey, but now I can. So it's like, that's not bad. And I can even make out some of the titles of my books there I got sitting on the desktop unit. Alright, yeah, I didn't really have time to prepare a song this week, but so I'm gonna share some of my thoughts on the fall of man. And Kevin, so I do know Kevin, he was saying that, he was suggesting I don't dig too hard into trying to read Hebrew, in terms of like when I say, maybe I can read Genesis 1 since I gotta do my assignment on Genesis 1. But so I'll see. I'll try to make some time. But right now, the problem is I got other stuff for school I need to do, and I haven't had a chance yet to read Genesis or more of Genesis in Hebrew before doing this message. But the thing is, normally I want to keep with posting the message every Saturday, right? So the problem is tomorrow's Saturday, and I haven't recorded my message yet. So so I doubt that in the next 16 hours I will have time to read more Genesis and do the stuff that's due for school before making this recording. So I'm just going to record it, even though I haven't actually read as much Genesis as I would or as much Hebrew. I've read Genesis many times as I like before doing this message. But there is a few insights that we can get from the Hebrew that I think kind of help us understand a little bit about the theology. I think one thing that we learned a lot about in our class from Mary, and also sometimes Francis will co-teach the language theology, or not theology, but there's some theology, but but language theory is the term we're using. Is that you don't want to just draw theology from nuances of language. However, there is a very very general and specific understanding that we can understand a little bit from the language to kind of understand the theology that's out there. So what I mean is, I'm talking about is that when it comes to this specific example, when I talk about the fall of Adam, is basically what the translation is in the original. Like, I mean, the title, right? Actually, I don't think they actually had a chapter title, but when they say the fall of man, they're actually talking about the fall of Adam. I mean, even the chapter itself, as you saw, like, it opens up with Eve, right? So it's like, oh well, Eve is falling as well here. What we're talking about. So what I'm saying is that this particular word would be better translated as the fall of Adam. So that's what I'm saying. This so that particular chapter. But Adam in itself is not really necessarily always referring to one person. The Hebrew word used in various contexts is actually referring to mankind as well. So it is legitimate that some English translations say, oh well, maybe we're talking about the fall of mankind. So I don't want to argue the historicity, I think it's called, of the passage right now. It's like, okay, is it like one person that fall, or like all of mankind that fall? I think from a theological perspective, yes, most people would agree that everybody has sinned, just like it would say like later on, right, in the Bible, right? For all have sinned and fall short of the glory of God, or or other parts in the Old Testament even where it says there's none who have done good, not even one, sort of thing. It's not exactly the same as what Paul says in Romans and other other New Testament passages would say, but the whole point is, like, yes, it is legitimate to from the greater context of Scripture and the Bible to say that yes, all men have fallen. But what I'm saying is that we're not going to argue today whether or not this particular passage, Genesis 3, is like, the language or whatever. Is it referring to like one, like from the rest of the passage you can see that yes, it's written with the the narrative of a woman and a man who have like disobeyed God and ate from the tree, and so this is like they inside the tree of the garden, like, or in the middle of the, so in the middle tree, this might be garden, so this is tree and then that might be garden, right? So that that's what they did. They ate from the middle of the tree from the middle of the garden. So that's let me see here. I got a little bit of a helper here. Garden. There we go. So indeed. So yes, I'm grateful that I'm getting to a level that because I don't think I want to, if I'm going to take another Hebrew course, I don't think I definitely want to do it next semester, because it's like the rate of which we need to learn Hebrew is like pretty demanding. Like I was telling my classmate Sarah, we're kind of learning like 6 years worth of language in like 16 weeks. It's rough. At least if I'm going to do another Hebrew course and I do it maybe next year, then I can so then I got say for example I'm doing another 16 chapters, and these chapters are they're no longer Mickey Mouse chapters in Hebrew. They're they're getting into more the advanced class, right? So then I would be okay, I think I would much prefer instead of having a week to do the chapter, a month, right? So then if there is 16 chapters, for example, and I have 16 or close to 16 months before I have to master those chapters, then yeah, maybe it'd be more ideal for me to okay, I'm not going to take another Hebrew course till next year, but I have time, a more relaxed pace to kind of actually become good at it, and then I need more credits anyways, then I'll take the Hebrew. So I think that's the way I approach it. But what I'm saying is it's great that I've learned enough Hebrew now that I can kind of fill in the blanks, right? I mean, even though Mary said that this is not necessarily the best translation of English, but I can understand enough of the Hebrew now. Is okay, in the middle of tree, garden, right? Okay, is it garden? Oh, well, there's an English for translation here. There's the word garden. None of these other words would necessarily be translated garden, so this must be the garden. So what I'm saying is that that enables me to pick up Hebrew easier, because now I understand I have enough vocabulary where okay, so this is a new word. What is it? And then okay, looks like and I can confirm in the dictionary and also with Google and all that stuff. Now it's okay, we're talking about, because at first, some of you have seen when I was doing Ephesians and all that stuff, I didn't understand sentence structure. I didn't understand for example even maybe the Ephesians 1 at the time. I didn't understand this is the word and kind of thing. So anyway, I'm speaking at a Hebrew pace right now, but but I just didn't want to record an hour worth of video, because this is actually quite a broad topic. So like I said, we're not going to argue about whether it's one man or or well, basically to put it bluntly and briefly, we're not going to argue about evolution versus creationism. That's what I'm saying. We are going to talk about the theology of sinning and falling, and all have sinned, but from this passage. But definitely we're not going to talk about, like I said, creationism versus evolutionism. And I have read other books in a library before, Christian offered books, commentaries and stuff. That it's okay, the conclusion is they're saying that from both a theological and scientific perspective, it's okay to accept either I guess Christianity that supports more of evolutionism versus Christianity that supports more of creationism. The important thing is that they're saying that there's some Christians who actually are evolutionists as well, and like Darwin, I guess I think that's from what I remember, I so don't quote me on this because I don't actually, I don't have I'm not confident in my memory of this, as well as I did not do research prior to recording this recording. But what I'm saying is that maybe um, uh, even if he was a Christian, he still believed in evolutionism. And some people were like, "Oh, no, evolution is anti-Christian." But no, according to the books I was reading, it's okay to be evolutionist and a Christian, or even if you want to be a creationist and a Christian. The important thing is that we can agree to disagree on that one thing, but we still, in our Christian faith, we can just agree that, okay, regardless of whether we in history we had evolutionism or we had evolution or creation, the fact is God was behind it all. So I hope that summarized that argument for you a little bit, and we can get that out of the way. So yes. So what I'm saying is, the whole point is, I'm not here to argue creationism or evolutionism, but I am trying to integrate this, that the theology of sin is similar regardless of whether you believe in creationism or evolutionism. And also, like I said, the word for Adam in Hebrew, sometimes in different contexts they also use it as the word for man, but they don't use it as so they could use the word for man as well. And just like in the Greek, where there's like, okay, brothers or whatever. Actually, that's funny because I was looking at, I think it was either NASB or some other translation earlier today, and it's like, oh, brothers and sisters, but the sisters is like italicized, and like, okay, well, what's going on here? Like, are they just trying to be gender inclusive, but they're also like italicizing it to say that, okay, this is not from the original language, like, on the so the whole point is like, yes, what I'm saying is, in some in other Hebrew texts, in the they might say the men, but sometimes they do mean the women as well. But maybe like in other contexts where it's like, they talk about going to war, and then the men, they rose up, they pretty much only mean the men went to battle. They don't mean the women went. So, but the whole point is, in other contexts, like, the word Adam is not referring to the one person in this narrative, regardless of whether this narrative is kind of like a fable or poetry, as some Bible colleges would teach, or it's like it's actually talking about, like, there actually was a one person named Adam. The whole point is, in other Hebrew texts that are written in Hebrew, sometimes they would use the word Adam in place of the word man or women. And it would be more inclusive of both, right? They'll be like, and the Adams, or the or no, maybe they wouldn't say Adam. So what I'm saying is, I would assume that Adam, based on the way the Hebrew people use language, right? Like, it's just like English, right? We wouldn't say like, okay, the men and women, right? Like, we would say the men and women, like, or we would just say like the humans, right? So what I'm saying is, like, there would be certain contexts where, like, it's more common for us to use the word like humankind or mankind, or we might even say mankind, because it's like sort of like archaic, but even though it's more like, yeah, it's only like recently we're like, okay, we gotta be like, gender inclusive. We can't say mankind because it starts with man, it doesn't like so what about the women, or womankind, yeah, there's no such thing. Maybe in the future we're gonna have womankind, but the whole point is, like, people used to use mankind to represent humankind, like, until we got to the point where, like, okay, no, we should be politically correct or gender inclusive, we're gonna use humankind instead. But the whole point is, like, like, for example, if I'm saying a phrase like the good of mankind, we would say, like, okay, well, the good of mankind, he's talking about the good of humanity, right? That's the same. But what I'm saying is, like, like, it's more common, you'll find in different genres or contexts where, like, they might say mankind has done this, they have achieved that, whatever. And to some degree, yes, but in the past, like Galileo or like Einstein, like, a lot of women were not recognized for their achievements back then. So it makes perfect sense that you would say, like, mankind this, or if you're written, if you're writing a book, especially like, maybe before the year 2000, that and then you are referring to all the achievements of mankind, and sometimes it will include some women, but because of the the way that 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 type of literature has developed over that time, it's very common to use mankind instead of humankind. But more recent texts would maybe still talk about the the achievements of Galileo, Christopher Columbus, and whatever, and say humankind, and then even those they would include some women in there, and they would just so it seems more natural. But what I'm saying is that I assume that because of what I've seen so far, even though I haven't read too much of Old Testament in Hebrew, is that the Adam, when they use this, God's wrath is against Adam. So there might be and so then that's kind of what I'm saying. Okay, Adam sinned and God's wrath is against Adam. But maybe not in Genesis, but let's say later on somewhere in Leviticus, or I don't know. I'm just guessing here. Don't quote me again because I haven't looked at those passages, right? So Joshua or whatever, they say, Adam is condemned, and then you read it and you're like, I don't remember reading about Adam in Joshua 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But now why all of a sudden Joshua 9 and here Adam has been condemned. I'm like, what? Right? So but then you look at it and it's like, oh, okay, well, because this word can also talk about all of humanity. So they mean okay, it's not just the men who are condemned, but they're talking about the humankind has been condemned, and then in that context it's making sense now. It's like, oh, okay, so because that word is also used that way, it makes sense in that passage. Again, I didn't look at Joshua 9, where I'm just throwing arbitrary context out there, so do not quote me because I actually have not read the Hebrew of that passage yet. I'm just kind of saying I assume that the word will be used in different sentences, and most likely they will use it that way, right? They wouldn't say the men are condemned. They would say the Adam are condemned, meaning okay, well, they are condemned. Humankind is condemned. That's what I'm saying. They would say Adam is condemned, or condemn is Adam, maybe in Hebrew structure, and that would just say okay, well, they mean the humankind is condemned. So, I know that's a lot of language theory, a lot of Hebrew, and then that took a little longer than I wanted to, but so let's try to wrap this up. And I was what I'm saying is that okay, there is so I personally, I'm gonna preach as though this passage is saying humankind has fallen. So now you understand what I'm saying. I know that was a lot of setup, but apparently if I don't set up my ideas well enough, I get F's. That sermon. I'm still upset at Adam about that. Fail. So anyways, so that's at least now I explained it, and hopefully you can follow that. I explained that okay, mankind, Adam, certain context, whatever. So I am reading the passage as if this. So what I'm saying is I'm not reading it as an individual, just looking at one person, Adam. Or so I'm not trying to look at okay, are we talking about creationism or humanism? I am trying to read this passage as okay, well, from the perspective and angle of we're talking about humankind has sinned. Humankind has fallen. Humankind is under the. We are living in a non-Garden of Eden scenario, and I think a lot of us are feeling that right now because we got all these things going on, with COVID, and maybe maybe you've got a relative who fought in the World War. Maybe you got or died in the World War, right? Or maybe you know somebody who's died of COVID. And it's sad, right? But and also I was recently reading a bulletin off my phone, and I was like, it's hard to think about, guys. They were saying that I mean, even some countries like the numbers are. I don't know. Like, I don't really just look at numbers because I think like I think we don't have as good testing in certain countries as like as other countries would have. So I would say that I want to look at it as like I don't want to just read the numbers, but the whole point is like, okay, even if you just look at the numbers, right? We are at the point we are because of the death rate of COVID. We're getting there that they're saying that it's possible that we could see the possibility of handing out like, okay, so I guess worldwide, if not just looking at any country in particular, there's going to be at least it's getting serious, and hopefully we're praying, and that hopefully that God can or like I'm not I know some of you may not have the same faith beliefs and you're watching this video, and that's fine, but I'm just saying we're hopefully that we're reaching a solution, right? And I have been praying about it from time to time that God will find a solution, and but God would do everything in His time, right? As some of us believe, and I think that but what I'm saying is that we are possibly getting to a situation where it's like, okay, well, we could have like thousands. I think we might even be there right now, actually, in the global scale. But like like based on let's say like today's case count was 100,000. Actually, you know what? 100,000. You're probably talking about just North and South America, or even just all of Asia. Maybe at least 100,000 cases, right? So. But let's try not to be so dark and gloomy about it. But what I'm saying is like 100,000 cases. You're talking about what, at least 1% death, right? 1% death rate, right? So I'm just saying, like, from a numbers perspective, we're just going to use 100,000 as an example, right? So so let's say 100,000 cases, right? Like the daily count, 100,000 new cases, right? So let's oops, where am I here? Where is my calculator app to show you the calculations? Star Trek. One more calculate. There's always going to be one more calculation. Ah! Alright, I'll do it on my phone, and then I'll just kind of like. I don't know. I'm sorry, guys. Apparently, the app does not want to work for me today. But I'm pretty sure it's just like 10. Or what, is it 10,000 or 1,000? I don't know. I think it's 1,000, but it's still a lot, right? So whatever. Let's say whatever region, country, whatever has reached 100,000 cases today. You're talking about at least 1,000 people are gonna die. Maybe not today, but from the virus, like they're saying they're not gonna make it. So 1,000 people aren't gonna make it. Maybe like depending on what kind of treatments that we've developed or whatever it is. So 1,000 people are gonna die that day. So that's what that number is saying. Like 100,000, like or let's say we have a global daily case count of 1 million new cases, right? Then I'm pretty sure that means 10,000 people are gonna die as of like maybe not as of that day, but what I'm saying is that we've just given out 100 death sentences for 100,000 cases. We've just given out 10,000 death sentences for like a million cases. So it's not fun to think about. And what I was like, I always think about this is like, let's say we had 1 million cases today, 10,000 people died or will die. Well, did we have 10,000 people give their decide to believe in Jesus? Or maybe if you don't personally believe that believing in Jesus is a good thing, did Movember even collect $10,000 worth of donations over, like, worldwide, not necessarily my own campaign, but other people you can give to, whatever. Or like, like, after all, all the other things going on, is there, like, some other things that are going on besides that are also numeric, that are, perhaps, people will see that as a more positive thing, because not everybody likes to think of death, right? So I don't know. So to some people, death is a challenging issue. I know for me, at the beginning of the pandemic, I was pretty stressed out and anxious about it. But like, what if somebody eventually that I know might pass away, right? And or even I pass away, whatever, or it's definitely like it wasn't fun to think about. And I've been trying to process how to be healthy, and and even amongst those uncertain circumstances. And I just think that it's not great to think about, and like, and that's, like I said, that's part of why I'm doing this, right? Like, maybe in 2 years I will die of COVID, who knows, right? So I don't want to be negative, but I'm just saying, like, it's so, like, it's really changed how I try to look at life, right? Like, because, like, if you don't record the message today, I was watching the Real Master joke about, like, be a man, do the right thing, right? So maybe you don't record the message today, and tomorrow you get COVID, right? So and then there's always a chance, right? So the whole point is, like, but the way I look at it is, like, like, even if I was in, which I'm not in the pastoral track, but what I'm saying is, even if I was in the pastoral track, maybe, like, God can't wait. God's not going to be able to wait for me to graduate and become ordained or whatever it is before I start to share God's message, right? You just gotta, maybe you don't share the message today, right? Like I said, right? So that's sort of kind of how I look at it, and that's why I've been doing these weekly messages. And we are, like, I've been trying to keep these to like half an hour, but we are going up to 45 minutes soon. So that's sort of one of the points I want to touch about, is that we are living in the a the world that we live in is like just like in the Genesis story, right? We're very much not in the Garden of Eden. And from the we've been taken out. I think that so it's, this is it is here. I know about enough about the English Bible, even if I don't memorize the Hebrew like the the Jewish people have done. But the whole point is, I don't know, let's see. They will say, to the Adam you shall reground, right? So yeah, so now we are in this situation, right? And like I said, the world is not what it was before the fall of mankind. There's a lot. Like I said, this message could go on as its own series. So maybe I'll talk about it again next week. If I don't really have a lot of time to do a good job of Philippians or any other book or whatever I might do, and maybe a Hebrew book would be good at some point, but maybe not yet. Maybe in the new year. Like I said, if I continue studying Hebrew and I get better at it, and then I can we can understand more of this. But for now, with the Hebrew, it'll basically I'm wondering if they're using the word Adam or they're using the other word ground that I saw, like, for example, in the video on lexicons that Mary had created. But let's see here. So I think so. Okay, so I think they're using, it's not quite Adam. Like, I think this is what they're saying, like, in that particular part. That's pretty much, like, from what I understand of Hebrew right now. Oh, sorry, we should put it here. And actually, so Hebrew detected, to the earth. So I think they're not using, So there's different words for earth, land. So there are some people who have created Hebrew vocabulary in the like this app that I've been using. So I'm gonna like just borrow from that instead, so that at least you can see it, right? Because if I had to take a picture of my textbooks, so this guy, his name is Jay Lassiter or whatever it is. Well, first name starts with a J and his last name is Lassiter. Apparently, I think he's using a slightly different textbook, maybe the old edition or whatever it is. I don't know. What I'm saying is some of the Hebrew does not line up, some of the vocabulary does not line up. So this is also Adam, right? And then there is Adama, so the land, earth, ground. So that's what this looks like. But also there is what do you call Adama. Yeah, so this is yes, they are using Adama, or yeah. But my Hebrew pronunciation is pretty horrible right now. So yeah, and to the Adama, yeah, I like this is a very like it's not a, it doesn't always mean that, but I think in this case it means like and to the Adama, you are from, and then like you are from like you will go back to where you're from, sort of like. Because what I'm saying is I don't see Adama later on, so but like Google will kind of maybe give me like a different, like this is according to Mary, this is NIV, so not NIV, sorry, KJV or King James version, and so we turned out to the land, right? So that kind of helped. This is a bit helpful. And like yes, I agree with her that you can use Logos Academic Basic maybe better. And so, but anyway, so in this case, yeah, so this is Navash or Shayam. So this word also means repent, or not also means repent, but in some context, like I say about language use, this word return is translated as repent, I believe. Unless it's a different word for return, but so I'm just gonna try to isolate the word on its own. So it's your turn. So I guess yeah. But this is, they're saying you will go to. So anyways, I don't want to go into it now, but. There's a lot of, like I said, Hebrew is not easy. There's lots of stuff you can study, but it's actually it's pretty meaningful, I think, to study it. So that's why I've enjoyed the course so far. So anyways, so we're talking about and to the ground, so return to the ground. You are from where you are from. That's sorry, so that's what I'm saying. It's better to isolate this word here. Yeah, so that like this meme prefix usually means from, and I don't understand why they're saying it's from her, but from those potion course. Yeah, so I guess it's more of a this context, right? So it's like, so where you are from, you will go back. Which is from the ground, like so it's like that the what they say in funerals, from dust to dust, right? It's kind of like dust to dust, as they say here in the next verse, but it's like you were created from the ground, like that you were created from the earth, out of the earth, and back to the earth or back to the ground you shall go, kind of thing, right? So it's like but I think there is a bit of a theological, so I'll try to end this in the next 5-10 minutes. There is a bit of a theological understanding here, is that, from the filthy, when you're gardening, whatever, let's say, God is gardening, right? Like in The Shack, if you ever seen that movie, but I don't want to use The Shack as necessarily saying that, the theology from The Shack necessarily applies to every situation. But the whole point is like, what I'm saying is that when you get, as they say in English, but like I said, Hebrew people might not have understood it the same way we do, so it's important for us not to necessarily add theology into where theology does not exist, kind of thing. So, anyways, the whole point is that I'm saying that, when you're gardening, you get your hands dirty, right? So it's like, from the filthy dirt you were from, and you will go back to the filthy dirt, right? So because you ate from the filthy tree, right? So now you're gonna go back to the filthy dirt, you filthy bastard. You filthy bastard. It's like Luke, I am your father no more. Okay. Anyways, let's not go into Star Wars right now. But the whole point is like I said, there could be some theological understanding from that too. What I'm saying is that because you were created out of the from filthiness, purified, and like I talked about in another message where you're purifying silver, right? So the whole point is when they created Adam in God's image, they purified him. They're like, okay, I don't know. Like what I'm saying is it may or may not be like evolution, but I'm just saying, ew, free eyes. Ooh. Nah, let's make the Adam 4.0. Let's just give it 2 eyes. It's 3 eyes is excessive. It just looks kind of ugly, So so I'm saying, maybe that's what happened, right? So it's that after they purified, they perfected. If evolution is reality, I'm not saying one or the other is as well. Like I was saying earlier, but let's just say evolution is reality, right? So so then if you use the metaphor from the evolution and science, it's like, we got 2 eyes, now we got a. All right, so what I was saying is that so I got interrupted, but I unpaused it. So what I was saying is that we got created from we started off maybe as they say in that Star Trek episode, a big pile of goo. We started off we if evolution was a thing, right? We single cell organism, or maybe some sort of Neanderthal or whatever. So we were not quite anywhere close to God's image at first, but then then God created man in God's image, right? As I said earlier in the previous chapter, we can look at, right? God created in my image. I think that might be good to do in Hebrew, but I don't have time for it, so I'm not gonna do it. So I will skip that. But I'm just saying, right? But of course, in the. So maybe we can look at that for next week if I decide to continue this for next week. But what I'm saying is that, and out of the ground, Lord formed. So so it's saying here, right, as well, from the ground. Well, in English, so from the ground in Hebrew as well, right? So that God has formed every, beast or whatever. So basically, assuming that evolution is evolution, and that what really happened. So he started off making these other creatures from the ground as well, that material, and then he started making and then eventually he got the man, right? I made God in my image, right? Wait a minute. Oh wait. But anyways, okay, so that's out of order from evolution theory, but I'm just saying, everything was formed out of the earth. Necessarily, whether ground is meant to be taken literally, but whatever. But you see where they have that the whole thing, right? Is from the Adamah, they're saying. They're not saying from the other word for ground. So as we looked at earlier, from the vocabulary set that that was created from, also based probably from the textbook, but basics of biblical Hebrew. So that's the whole one. So to conclude, in 2 minutes, because we we sort of already did week 1 and 2. Maybe next week I'll try to get back down to half an hour, and we'll just do week 3 consider this week 1 and 2. To conclude, I'm saying that we have we all are in the situation where we screwed up the image, and now we are like we broke the mold, like the NSYNC song. So now we kind of screwed up the machine. We messed up the creation machine now, right? And that's what like I said in another message about Romans, all of creation. That creation is messed up. So now we got viruses, we got people killing people, we got lots of we kind of messed it up. So I think it has implications. I think it's like yes. So I like what Rich is saying in one of his messages, where Rich is like, we gotta curb the pandemic of sin. So basically, mankind at this point has sort of become, or Adam or mankind has sort of become like a virus, like a poison or pollution, right? So instead of living in harmony, and what mankind also does is we pollute the earth. We have some people have theories that maybe cancer is coming from the fact that the earth is no longer you might have nuclear radiation in your water. Now that might be contributing to cancer now, right? So so there's a lot of theories that people have that are do have some basis of truth, but it's not proven from a scientific level, right? But I would agree that the reason why we have death, we have people killing people and all that, is because mankind has sort of become like an infectant, a poison, a virus, whatever. We're not what we're supposed to be. We're supposed to represent God on earth, right? The whole original story where we got the that we live in creation harmony. We look after the animals, it's more like the Narnia situation, right? Of the C.S. Lewis, right? It's like, we live in harmony with animals, and also we're good at helping to direct the animals of what they should do, right? Because animals don't necessarily know better, and therefore we're supposed to rule over them, right? In that kind of that metaphor, right? But instead, we sometimes, there's talk about, people talk about animal cruelty, or things like that. So right, like instead, we sometimes do things that that so you wouldn't do that to a human, but you're doing that to an animal. So there's a lot of things going on where it's like, so the humans are not what they, they're. Not only that, but you would torture another fellow human being, right? Whatever. So it's like, basically, like that you become a suicidal god, right? So, and like I said, COVID is killing people, and some people are just going around like COVID is not really a thing, and I kind of feel that's not a good representation of Jesus or God, that you show that you don't care. So I do commend that some people, they would be like, well, as a Christian, I think it's very important that we be mindful of COVID, and that for out of love for our fellow man, that we just we do our very best not to like I said, right, 1,000 people a day, and maybe 2,000 to 3,000 people would suffer pretty badly as well, not even if they don't die, right? So so what I'm saying is that the loving thing to do is to to not want to have harm to other people, is that that we would try to minimize the effects of COVID, right? So that's the way I see it, right? So that's my 2 cents and a quick update of COVID that I didn't necessarily get enough chance to do in last week's message. So that's that. And well, since I'm so busy with school, please don't be disappointed if I don't have a message next week. Like I said, I recorded basically an hour worth of message today, and that's sort of like, you know, double duties for next week. If half an hour this week, half an hour next week, and you know, like I post it live. You don't have to watch the whole hour all at once. You know, if you want to, watch, another, half an hour, like, next week, that's cool too. And like I said, especially if I don't post a message, but there's also other messages you can watch, like my Pokemon God message. Like if that's something that you that might that you might interest you, to learn about what I think, how the starter Pokemon represent, man, God, man, woman, and God, right? So yeah, that could be something you can, if I don't have time to do a message because I'm so busy at school, that it's something you can watch. So all right, thanks for tuning in, and God bless. And like I was telling my friend Jolene, God be with you, right? Goodbye, and then bye. So bye. Let me just show you guys that, and we'll end with it. So here we go. God be with you. Goodbye. Did you know? Goodbye. Short for God be with you. Well, I should. So I know that people say that sometimes internet sources are not, but the whole point is it was from like Shakespeare. From what I learned from my one of my high school teachers, that that's what they shortened it from, like in the old English, like King James type of English, where it's like God be with you and goodbye, and then it became bye. So apparently, I was surprised that she didn't know that. Well, maybe because she studied in the U.S. when she was in, so it's more of a Canadian school system thing. I learned it when I was in school in Canada. But anyways, thanks for tuning in, and yeah, I hope you got something good from this message, and you understand that but I mean, there's hope, right? Like, that's what I don't have time for today, but the whole point is, like, yes, even though we are now defective, defective God imitation robots, whatever it is you want to think about, like, like, we're supposed to be God 2.0, but now we are something else, that we're not, that we are defective, but there's hope, right? What I'm saying is that there's, like that book I pulled out earlier, we can try to follow in God's footsteps. What would Jesus do? And it does show up properly. Okay, so I guess, like, because I put the mirror in my video on, so I guess maybe I would be able to show a proper sign. All right, bye.